Mannequins need no help being creepy. Then there's what Fallout 4 does with them. I'm Mark from Digital Dissection. I make Fallout lore videos, and today I'll be investigating the bizarre nature of mannequins in the Boston Commonwealth, and if there's something otherworldly going on with them. Mannequins aren't exactly new to Fallout, but there's something about them in general that's just unsettling. The idea that something meant to simulate the human form being lifelessly posed forever brings on those uncanny valley feelings, making you wonder if you saw something you shouldn't have. Maybe that lifeless form actually moved. Maybe it behaved in a way it wasn't supposed to. Or maybe they're actually alive, and Toy Story was somehow right all along. Regardless of what you might be thinking, there's reasons to look twice when observing Fallout 4's mannequins. And if it was only one instance of strange occurrences, I wouldn't have even made this video. There's many of these observable mannequins that we can find, several of which may defy explanation. If you've never headed out to Nuka World, you're in for a treat. You're actually missing out on quite a bit. But those who have been there are aware of being thrown directly into a battle between three warring raider factions, all with their own complexities. One of them is called the Pack, a group that dresses themselves in animal-based clothing and accessories. They're really making a statement in post-war everyday wear. It's fashion, honey. Look it up. Part of the Pack's unique faction wear involved putting these creative articles on the area's mannequins, and they can be observed across several locations, such as the Bradburn Amphitheater and Nuka Town, USA. Some of you may not be weirded out by the fact that previously living, walking animals are now on display for you to observe. But there's something I've always found unsettling about looking at them for too long. Maybe it's an irrational fear of goats, maybe it's something else. But these are honestly just the tip of the iceberg in terms of Fallout 4's mannequins being a unique kind of creepy. We'll next be traveling to the Back Bay area, to an unmarked location south of the combat zone, an area called the Warren Theater. There are many who have never visited this location despite its surprisingly still lively sign colors. But the location is based on the real-world Warren Theater that once existed in Roxbury, Massachusetts. They had officially closed by 1968 in our world. The spot upon closer inspection is fairly unassuming, sporting a foyer and former concessions area. But pressing further into the theater shows us a rather bizarre sight, as its main stage is still in use by a group of mannequins. It's quite clear someone intentionally positioned these body doubles in a scene of unknown origin. What we do have is an example of something possibly sinister, as a synth is found hiding amongst these static performers, making the idea of exploring them casually a possibly deadly concept. Even still, the mannequins themselves appear in a fairly harmless way. The same can't be said for the places that we're going to go next. Most of you probably made your way through Concord because, well, Fallout 4 kind of forces you to, unless you completely avoided the main storyline somehow. If you decided to poke around this area outside of the main quest, you might have noticed the unmarked speakeasy, which in the post-apocalypse doesn't exactly give off a strong vibe. Exploring this location will quickly yield a few sights that are at minimum peculiar, and quickly drift into unsettling. On a bed within the speakeasy's second floor sits a permanent resident, a skeleton who is laying next to a female mannequin. It appears that the once living individual found their own way out of Fallout's Great War, but at some point, an unknown individual decided to place the mannequin next to him. While this is a strange enough thing to look at, what's in the nearby bathroom is far more concerning. Doing a 180 in this room will show a fairly grisly scene, as another inhabitant in this speakeasy's living area saw their final moments in the bathtub. We can find a skeleton sitting within it that is surrounded by three mannequins, each one brandishing weapons, which include machetes. The bizarre staging is a bit disturbing, as the skeleton's skull is no longer attached, and instead is resting within the toilet nearby. While we don't have an exact party to pin this bizarre scene on, clearly someone came through and did this at an undetermined time. Considering that Concord streets are crawling with raiders, it's likely that one of them with slightly more mental issues decided to have fun at these skeletons' expense. The Parsons State Insane Asylum isn't immediately open to all players until pursuing work with the Cabot family, but upon entering this location, you'll find the key to their dark family secret, something that we're not exactly going to get into right now. The Insane Asylum has clearly seen better days. with floors that have fallen through to the sub-basement and degrading conditions that were already in need of a renovation at the time of Fallout's Great War. What needs to be studied, however, is why on earth an insane asylum would have so many mannequins, as they're literally all over the grounds of the property. They appear in offices, former patient rooms, and random corridors. You can't really go anywhere across the asylum without running into one or more. One particular bizarre sight includes a storage room with several of them lined up behind a closed door. When first exploring the area, this can be quite jarring, as they're meticulously lined up, staring back at you with those large, cold, dead eyes. I really do hate it. 05, do not recommend. At minimum, it takes an already unsettling location and turns it into a journey where it feels like you constantly have eyes on you. And this includes the fact that there's already raiders here, but at a moment's notice you might be face to face with a silent observer, or many of its friends for seemingly no reason. When thinking about what we saw at Concord, this at least gives you a sense of common threads, that perhaps these post-war lunatics just like playing with mannequins for some reason. Regardless of who might be the ones placing them, behind one of the insane asylum's locked doors also sits several cymbal-playing monkeys who will light up in the dark. I'd hate to think that the monkeys and mannequins might be working together. Although in Far Harbor, mannequins may be doing more than just visually scaring people. For me personally, Far Harbor already feels a bit more feral than the main areas of Boston, as Mount Desert Island on the coast of Maine has its own unique challenges and warring factions. Outside of its plot, though, sits an anomaly that's a bit more troubling than any of the mannequins we've run into so far. The Fringe Cove dock south of the ruined church has many derelict boats, sinking buildings, and structures that simply will not stand the test of time. But it's not them we're actually concerned with. What we want to see is a boat that's no longer floating, just beneath the water's surface. A submerged boat southwest of the docks brings us to a rather unsettling series of events, which includes a note that discloses a potential reason for why the boat sank in the first place. The note reads,
"I can't wait to drop these damn mannequins off. The crew is starting to claim that they're hearing weird noises from the cargo. Maybe they are just playing pranks on me. Whatever. We're almost there."
You'll know you found the boat because several of the mannequins in question are poking up out of the water, and taking a peek below will only lead you to the remains of the vessel transporting them. The mannequins are peering out from the boat's wreckage, a sight that will curdle the blood of even the most seasoned wastelanders. I've adjusted the filters though so you can see them clearly. Combined with the note, seeing the fate of this cargo vessel is incredibly unnerving, as it feels like in a way that the mannequins themselves delivered justice to those who sought to bring them into Far Harbor. Pushing further to the ocean floor might give us the greatest clue as to why these mannequins might have been haunted, as we can notice several cargo containers and their contents. Within one of the containers includes an opened coffin, containing a mannequin and several gold bars. It's hard to know how many of these coffins the boat might have been transporting, but the gold they contained and the sheer amount of mannequins seen here will indicate that a small fortune was being sent to this area at minimum. The troubling note we found also doesn't appear to just be a ghost story either, as looking into the boat's interior shows us similarly positioned mannequins like the ones we saw at Concord. The only difference here is that we don't have any raiders nearby that we can pin their placement on, and these ones are also positioned ever so carefully, many feet below the surface of the water. What's quite clear is that those seeking to deliver the mannequins didn't make it to their final destination, and the dummies themselves appear to have gotten the better of their captors, with several skeletons in the wreckage and one mannequin admiring its handiwork over one unfortunate individual in particular. So what exactly are we seeing here? Could it be that they're actually alive? I held off on asking this question until now due to the fact that it's worth seeing the possibilities first, before considering what has long been a fan belief that the Boston Commonwealth's mannequins could indeed be alive. Some have theorized that exact thing, as we already have synthetic life forms roaming the ruins of Boston as it is. But could inanimate objects like mannequins actually move? Do they shift around when we're not looking at them? Well, if we're looking at lore only, there's not much evidence to truly back up this claim. While some have investigated cut content from Fallout 76 that might have introduced mannequins coming to life as part of a possible encounter, we never actually saw this content. and we also don't quite see that exact thing ever happening in any established Fallout continuity. It's likely far more realistic that Fallout's developers just really like creeping us out, as evidenced by teddy bears, gnomes, and similar still-life objects being placed in both harmless or potentially suspicious situations. At least that makes me feel better about the concept. The truth is, regardless of whether or not Fallout 4's mannequins are alive, the idea that a synth could be hiding amongst them is enough reason to give Wastelanders pause when taking a closer look at them. But in the case of Far Harbor, we can't entirely rule out that they're not directly responsible for the deaths of people. The fact that we can't be sure is frankly already creepy enough. And with that, I thank you for joining me as I investigated Fallout 4's mannequins. And if they're more than just stationary items, were there any mannequins that I missed? Let me know in the comments. For more Fallout content similar to this video, consider subscribing to this channel and checking out my playlist linked here, where you can find weekly content on the Fallout series. As always, Wastelanders, thank you for watching, and until next time, keep on dissecting. This is Mark signing off.